everyone. Welcome to another phenomenal episode of The Power of Exposure. I'm so excited to be here with the phenomenal Dr. Clinton Coleman. He is near and dear to me because he's my mom's doctor and cared for her for so many years, last 2 years of her life. And we're just so grateful that I have this connection with him. When I see him, I see her. And so you guys all know that Parent Matters is a legacy of just honoring my mom and her legacy, rather. And so I'm excited to hear Dr. Coleman's story and just, have him share more of what he has done in his journey so we can get more people that look like us with that white coat on. So welcome, Dr. Coleman.
Thanks for having me. Glad
Uh,
to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So give us a little bit. I don't know how far you want to go back, but you can go back as far as you want
I
and
can go back to when I was born if you want.
tell us how you got
Um,
here.
so, well, I'm just to tell you what I do now. I'm a internal medicine physician and also a nephrologist who is kidney disease and high blood pressure. And my practice is in Teaneck, New Jersey, lovely Teaneck. And I've been in practice now for about 11 years. So originally I was born and raised in East Orange, New Jersey, which is Essex County. So, um, and then, my mom is very hardworking. My dad is very hardworking. So, dad and mom usually work two jobs. We were fortunate enough to send me to private school early. So I went to Catholic school. I went to Immaculate Conception, which is in Montclair for elementary school. And then I went to Seton Hall Prep. So they broke their neck to try to pay for all that. Those educations were expensive at the time. So they were the price of college tuitions now. But, they broke their necks to make sure I had a good education. You know, how I got into medicine is, I'm not sure. I probably didn't realize it, but I think my mom was molding me at the time, and she's always been a lifelong learner. So she's actually still in school now. She's actually a nurse practitioner with her doctorate, and she does school nursing. But she's been a lifelong educator, and she's always instilled in me just to learn. So, and as a child, I was always interested in science. So I was the kid who had the box of trinkets in the basement, and I would build things and play with things. So that was always my passion, just seeing how things work and building things. And at some point, she instilled in me the idea of, you know, finding out how the body works, fixing it if it's broken, things like that. So
Wow.
I didn't really think about going into medical school until probably in college. I did do some volunteer work, candy striping at the hospital in Livingston, the St. Barnabas Hospital. But I didn't know why I was doing it. I thought it was just something to do for the summer.
I
But I
haven't
think
heard that term candy striping in a
yeah,
long
yeah, yeah.
time.
Well, because the girls, the young ladies, they had the white shirts with the red stripes, and the guys wore the blue.
But the young people listening to this will be like, what?
What is candy
I love
striping?
it.
Yeah, so if you're ever in the hospital or have to be in the hospital, there's a lot of volunteers who bring water to patients and flowers and books and stuff like that. So it's a real good thing, and it's a way to give back to the community. So that was part of my giving back to the community, which is something that I wouldn't have thought of doing as a child. It didn't have to be candy striping; it could have been anything. But just the fact that she had me doing something to give back to the community, like in retrospect, that speaks volumes of her foresight. So that probably instilled my desire to want to help people.
Mm.
And then I went to college. I went to Rider University. That's in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. I majored in biology because I liked science and I liked research. And I think about maybe my sophomore or junior year, I wasn't just going to stop at the bachelor's. I wanted to get either an advanced degree. And I was thinking of doing research, like bench research, because I like biology. I was doing a lot of immunology, which is a study of the immune system. And I was going to apply for like a PhD. And my mom was like, "Why don't you just go into medicine? You could do research if you want to do, but you can also, help people." And I always like talking to people and, building relationships. So, and then, at that school, it's more of a business school. There weren't too many people going into medicine. So that was a unique experience. And I went to medical school. Before I went to medical school, I did some summer programs. So at University of Medicine and Dentistry in New Jersey and Newark. They have a gifted and talented program. So that's for young kids of color who are interested in medicine. They spend a summer or two. They
Oh,
shadow doctors. They actually do most of the curriculum for the first year in a short amount of time, just to see what the experience is like. They get to meet the doctors and the teachers and actually get a leg into what medical school is like. So that program was invaluable.
was that high
It's
school
still
or college?
that was um, that was in college.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I think in high school I did some science programs. I think either it was STEM or I forgot the names of it now. But no, yeah, college I did 2 years of the gifted and talented program.
Hmm.
And that, that secured my desire to want to go into medicine. I didn't see too many people of color outside of medicine, outside of my circle actually doing it. And it was like, wow, this is something that, that can change people's lives. I didn't necessarily think I was so qualified because I don't think I was always the smartest kid in the class, but I was definitely hardworking. And I had passion and I was creative. I was always putting things together. I was into art, drawing, all that stuff. So I think putting all those things together, like the experience of the summer programs, my desire to help people, made me, a valuable student that someone would want me to be in their school. So that's how I got to the medical school. So, and then
Where,
that's 4 years. I'm sorry, go ahead.
where did you go to medical school?
University of Medicine Dentistry in
Oh,
New
you
Jersey.
saw that
So
program
that's
and then
yeah,
you
yeah. So actually, exactly. So that's the program serves two purposes: is to teach the kids who are interested. I can't say kids, but young adults who are interested in medicine, and also to actually probably get a good pool of talent.
nice.
So I actually went to that school and graduated 4 years later with a degree in medicine, and then I did my residency at St. Luke's Roosevelt, which is currently, I think, Mount Sinai.
Hmm.
And then I did, so that was 3 years, and then I did specialty training in kidney disease and high blood pressure at Lenox Hill Hospital. I finished that in about 2009, and been private practice since in 2012.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's
Long road travel, yes.
yeah, and I'm sure that's probably maybe what do you think deters young people from going into medicine per se? And did you come across, was there ever a time on your journey once you decided that's what you wanted to do and you're like, I don't know if I can finish this, I don't know if it's worth it or what?
I just the fact that like we don't know what those careers exist like for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
My pediatrician, it like looking back on it, like it all makes sense. Like my pediatrician was a black woman, um, but I had never thought of her as a physician. She was just someone who was really smart and took good care of me. I think people go into careers based on who their role models are, or if their parents are, facilitating those careers. Unfortunately, in our community, our role models are, they're successful in their own right, but they tend to be in a certain niche, like whether it's sports related, whether it's entertainment and art. We really don't have that many role models to look up to as far as entrepreneurs, whether it's lawyers, physicians, business people, all those things. So, when you desire to be something, you want to see that person look like you, so you can do it. Otherwise, you're just going to practice basketball and football, and then that feeds into that cycle that when you want to aspire to do something better,
Right,
you think it's too hard, and you don't have the motivation to do it because you don't think you can do it because it's not for you.
right.
So I think that's probably the biggest deterrent is just having people look like you, be successful, and that way you can follow their pathway.
So that's really important what you're saying because, I actually, when I got to college, not knowing what I wanted to do, studied biology and it quickly fizzled out
Right.
very quick. Like I was bright in school, but, I think another issue is learning how to study. When I got to college, I did not have study skills.
Right.
I've grown up in New York City. Um, it was easy. It was very easy to me. Things came very easily. So I never learned how to, and I think a lot of young people freshman year just, you know, get really disheartened because they don't have
Right.
proper tools to to prepare them. And then I went to a predominantly white college. near Boston, and it wasn't a lot of support there.
Right, of
Probably
course.
not a really good choice. Yeah, I remember some pretty derogatory things being said by even the professors from my friends who are now doctors who finished,
Right.
but were like, "Yeah, that's never gonna happen." And I was like, "Oh wow!" So that I tell parents that too. Make sure you try to send your kids to a school where there's some support. Like even forget about the brand names and all that. Like think about the support.
Yeah, I didn't go to a brand name school. I went to a business school, right? And there was no support for. I think we were probably the second. There was no pre-med major.
Oh
I
wow,
did biology major. I think I was one of two um, biology or just college students in general that was applying to medical school. So
wow,
I think part of our problem is we self-select ourselves out of the equation completely. Um, I don't think it's a malicious thing. I just think that we don't prepare ourselves for different options. So, just remember it takes about 10,000 hours to learn something well and be an expert at it. So,
hmm.
starting math late, starting science late, all that stuff is really important. You have to build your passion as early as possible. So,
Right.
I was lucky that I had parents who, you know, instilled in me the drive to want to learn about different things, to be diverse, not focus on one thing, not put all my eggs in basketball. I played basketball, I played football. I thought I was going to be, at that time Michael Jordan, but reality kicks in. It's one in a couple, millions of kids actually go to the NBA
That's true.
or enough to make a living.
Right.
So I think we focus on the wrong thing sometimes, and I think um, building a foundation that's diverse will help you, decide on whatever career you want. And, unfortunately, we aren't born with a passion to do a particular thing. We have to learn that or find that passion.
Right.
And that's usually through trial and error.
Yep, you're right. I'm glad you brought up the topic of athletes and being an athlete. What age did you stop playing sports, or what grade were you in when you stopped playing sports?
Well, I played when I played third and fourth grade basketball. I
Mhm.
played throughout. I was pretty good. I was on varsity in high school. We won state championships.
Wow.
And then I went to college, and um, you know, the rigors of biology was too much for me to. I probably wasn't even good enough to play in college, even at the school I was at. But that wasn't really my focus. I think at some point I realized that I wasn't going to be as good as I wanted to be.
Right.
Um, and I think our focus probably now is if someone is good at athletics, is to be able to get them a free education. That
Right.
should be the focus, not to play professional sports, but to get either a good education or a free education.
And that's
So I stopped in high school, and after that, it was just my
right.
studies.
No, that's really important what you said. But I getting a free education through athletics is pretty difficult.
That's tough too. Yes, yes, yes.
We went down that road with one of our sons, and my daughter played soccer in college, but it's pretty difficult. And then it's also difficult to be an athlete and a student. There's a mom that I'm friends with, and her son played football at Stanford, and but it was tough, to
Right,
do all that. Fortunately, he was able to finish, and then ended up getting his law degree, but that doesn't even guarantee the NFL,
right.
even though you do all that. So I think this is a really good message, and it's important that you're saying it, that I think sports are important. My kids have all played sports and or done karate or something, and but there needs to be a balance. Would you
Right.
agree that
And also, like even if you are lucky enough to get in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the lifespan of those players is very short, right? Most people work for 40, 50 years. A baseball, not baseball player, that's on the extreme, but the football players average in the NFL is 5 to 10 years. Tom Brady's 43 years old and he's considered old, right? So when he's finished football, everybody's not Tom Brady. Everybody's not going to be LeBron James. Everybody's not going to have endorsements or multi-million dollar contracts. Even if you do get to the professional sports, you may make an average salary for a professional sport, which is pretty good, but that's not a that's not going to provide you any financial stability. So you're going to need something to to have a backup for that. So even if you are going to make it to the professional league, you do need career options after that when it's over. So people don't think about that, and sometimes they're too nearsighted to realize that it's better to build a foundation now for something else, just in case what you really want to do doesn't work out.
Exactly. That's so true. And that, that's one of the reasons we created this whole platform is to expose young people because most people, I have 5 kids, only one by 5th grade kind of knew what he wanted to do, and that's coding
Right.
and IT. But the rest of them some of them are still figuring it out. And that's life. I'm still figuring it out.
Right.
But I think you're right. This athletic piece is huge. Like I said, as a parent of an athlete or athletes, there needs to be some balance. And thinking about this year, a lot of colleges aren't requiring you for you to send your SAT or ACT scores. So this is a great opportunity for someone who has built that robust resume, got some exposure
Right.
out there, got some names on there, maybe did a Rutgers program, maybe did another program, et cetera. And they're seeing that you can complete something, whether it's a summer program or a weekend program. And so they're looking at 2 different kids with maybe the same score, same GPA, et cetera. And they're like, oh wow, this kid did this summer camp at Google or this or that,
Right.
so and then it might give you that leg up. I still think all these robust things that my kids did or put on their resume are things that open up the door for them to get the full
Of
scholarship.
course, of course. And
And
and even for medical school, and it probably applies to college, the more diverse you are as far as things that you do makes you more attractive. So, there's different types of intelligence. I wasn't the most analytical or book smart person, but I was very creative. I had practical intelligence.
wow.
So that made me, probably on par with someone who was really book smart, right? And then I know a lot of book smart people, and I work with a lot of book smart people. They aren't the smartest people, like you can be book smart and not have common sense. So,
That was
and
my,
I'm
that was what my mother said on a regular basis. You don't have people who don't have common sense. She's always like, what's the point? So many
right.
people are walking around without common sense, and that's
The smart, supposedly smart people, right? Like,
you're right. But that's huge for you to say that you maybe not have may not have been like the smartest person in your class because even me, when I think of people in certain careers, especially medicine, it's like you got to be that brilliant, that phenomenon kid, and the rest of us, we got to figure something else out to do. And I think that's huge that this is coming from you as someone who is a medical professional in this field. We almost need you to open up your own school.
well, hey, full disclosure, I got a D in chemistry in college, and I lost my scholarship, right? So I was the senior taking intro chemistry with the freshmen, right? And then I ended up getting my scholarship back. But that was because I was partying too much. But I think and even in medical school, I don't remember me studying that much. I think I was probably just blessed to have good recall and being
Wow.
able to take a test. But
Wow.
I think knowing that there are different types of intelligence and abilities encourages people to actually do things that they wouldn't normally do. Like, an excellent painter, they have good spatial awareness. So, they may be a great surgeon as opposed to someone who can recall information. They may be a different type of doctor or scientist. So it's not, I think we focus on just, being too smart or, like those types of things.
Right.
Because, the doctors I work with, some are really intelligent, but they can't communicate information to patients.
Right.
And what's the point of having all that intelligence if you can't relay that information? So,
No.
my patients like me because I can actually sit and talk to them, and I'm relatable. So everyone brings something different to the table. So I don't want everyone to focus on your grades or your SAT scores. It's a lot that goes into play, and schools and people who um, select students are wary of that.
I love that. I love that, thank you for being honest about your grades.
Don't
Because
hold that D against me though. So.
No, that's huge though, because there are programs and there are situations and people, things happen. I know my son missed being into a PhD, like a full-fledged program, full ride all the way through your PhD at Howard because he had 1C in high school.
Right.
It was chemistry actually. And so sometimes things, so we kind of have that put in our heads. When I introduce parents to different options and opportunities, the first thing they say is, no, that's not for my kid, or he's not
Right.
that kid. And it's funny because there's a program that I connected a bunch of teenage kids to at Goldman Sachs called Fast Track, run by a brother from Morehouse, and just phenomenal. 9 months, so the kids have to travel the city to be there every other Wednesday at 5:30, and they're there and they're seeing all these people of color running things,
Wow.
and it's so. And I remember, begging. I went to the football games, begging parents to like sign your kid up for this program. It's free. It's this, is that. And they give internships, they give scholarships. So can you imagine being 16 and interning at like a Goldman Sachs?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So the parents were like pushing back, looking at me like I had two heads, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I finally convinced this one parent, and she was like, my kid's really not into school. He's like, just it's not his thing, and he's a senior. He ended up being the one kid that was first there. He was in the front of the room. The director called me and said, hey, who's this kid? He's the first one to do public speaking. He understands all the stocks, and look at that. And then she said, mom was like, after that, like 2 months into the program by November, she's like, he wanted to shop for more clothes. He wanted more suits because he wanted to be dressed when he got into the city. And his whole motivation towards school completely changed. And
So
everybody needs motivation, to stay in the classroom, because some of those classes are like, ooh, I don't want to do this.
right. Right.
So you need something to kind of like say, oh, wow, this is possible. I mean, when I walked into
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs, let me tell you, my mom, when she went to my son's graduation at this program, she said to me, my mom used to be a meter maid amongst other jobs. And she said to me, she remembers not being able to get into that building and wanting to go in there. And the security's so tight, et cetera. And so when we went in there, we're in the rotunda, the top floor, and she's in there looking at, I mean, she was so emotional. It was just like,
Wow.
I can't believe the heights that my grandkids are taking me and the places that they're taking me that I only dreamt of being able to even walk in this building. So, so that just inspired me to just like keep knocking on doors with parents and like, come on, just try it, just this, just that. And
Yeah. I think we just have to unlearn that behavior. I think a part of it is systemic, right? So,
yeah,
the standardized testing and all that stuff is probably self-selecting a lot of us out academically, right? And you know, it's been what not so long ago where we weren't allowed to go to certain
something
schools or
here.
be in certain places and have certain professions. So I think to testament of people like you, people like my mom and everybody else, like we've done leaps and bounds as far as progress, but I think we have to unlearn that behavior that my child is not good enough to go into this field, right? Just because I didn't do it like that, and that's all I know. We suffer from this all I know mentality.
That's true. So if a mom or a dad is out there listening to this, or a young person, and they're like, my child has always thought about medicine. I've heard this story, and I really want this, but I don't know. He's not doing, he's not a straight A student in high school. We had some. Listen, COVID is gonna mess with a lot of grades. My
Yes.
sons are home, remote from college. Now we're going into a year, and they're looking at me like I don't really want to do this semester because they're like,
Yeah.
it's almost it's a lot. They're
It's
missing
tough.
that social life, and just studying online. The professors are still struggling, teachers are still struggling with online, and so we know COVID is probably going to mess with a lot of grades and stuff. So if a parent's out there looking at, I really want to, or kids like, I want to be Dr. Coleman in 10, 15 years, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say I would early on put in the same effort exploring other endeavors, like you explore sports, right? Like we, I know we put our kids in soccer and baseball and basketball until we figure out what stick. Why don't we do that with academic endeavors? Why don't we put them into science programs? And my kids play piano, and some kids can do dance and all these other academic and creative institutions. That way they know it, one, they know it's out there, and then they can fall in love with it. And it could be, proof of concept. So, um, in order for you to know what something is about, you have to try it. And I fortunately was able enough to try it as early as possible. That way I developed that love of it. But it's never too late. I had people in my medical school class who were parents and had families, and they wanted to do it. So, and I think the other thing is just find people who are doing what you want to do, like find mentors. Mentorship is so important. If you look at other cultures and people around the world, they have mentors. They have, whether it's in their family or somebody outside their family. So, I'm always talking to young kids. I did it, you could do it too. And I think that's probably the biggest draw and the biggest example that you can be, is just like, look, I'm here. I was a B plus, maybe A minus student, but I did all these other activities and stuff. And I'm a successful physician, and I'm not stopping here, but I'm into other things. Entrepreneur, own my business. So I think just do as I do, and I think that'll help us.
I think that's huge. The mentorship is important. I remember my kids had also had a Black pediatrician here locally, and Dr. Terry. And I mean, the first time I met Dr. Terry, she's family now, but it was like, can you mentor my daughters? That's the first thing I said at our first appointment. And she's looking at me like, is this lady crazy? But that, and I think that we can't be afraid, to
You can't
ask.
be afraid to ask. Yes.
Just ask. And I'm talking to young people and parents, because all people can say is no. My son created an app in this program he did with Reginald Lewis's daughter, and in the Hamptons we had to go to this function, and it was like, it was out of this world. It blew me and
Right.
my son's mind, like, whoa. And but being around all those Black philanthropists that were just doing so much good, they were all coming to my son and saying, listen, talking about their mentors and the people that
Right.
poured into them. And so everybody has a story, everybody needed somebody. And I usually tell parents too that I don't know how your kids are, but my kids don't always listen to everything me and my husband or my
Of
mom said.
course. Yeah.
So I use a whole village of people. I text people and say, hey, you need to have a conversation with your nephew or
Yeah.
their mentors, etc. And so don't take it personal. I tell parents, because that's just how it is.
Right.
We sometimes we got to hear things 2 and 3 times, hear from somebody else, and be like, oh wait, that's what mom or dad said. But that's
Right.
okay. Whatever works,
Works.
works. And especially
And
the older
most.
they get, the more they get into their like teenage years. I know
Right.
by that time you're like, they gotta go, they gotta get up out of this house. And because there's a lot of conflicts going on, but you have to use people in the community,
Yeah.
in your circle, or ask. And it's funny, someone said to me the other day, do you know a Black doctor that could talk to my son? Because I think he really wants to do medicine.
Yeah.
Um,
That's me.
and
Like, it
and so
takes.
I'm glad to hear
It,
you say that.
yeah. It literally takes a village. Like, and we forget that sometimes. We think that we're on our own little island, and we have to. You know, our kids' success is based on our success. That's not
Oh, you're
true. So most people who are successful, they do want to be mentors, especially in our community, because they want to push everything forward. So
right.
unless they're so busy or whatever, but most people just want to help other people. And being a mentor is also an ego thing, right? Like, why does this young kid want to hang out with me? Like, it's something important that I'm doing. So please
Right.
do not be afraid to ask, just to get some wisdom. Like, I'm an OG now, right? So I have some wisdom. Don't make my mistakes, or let me inspire you. So people do want to inspire others. So I
Wow.
think we don't ask enough. So
No, you're right. And that's what, I'm glad you're saying it. It's coming from you. And and just the fact that you were able to get into medical school, because in my mind, this is just my mind. I always thought that that was like almost impossible to do. Like, like and you're coming from a business school and all these different things that, we have these visions and images in our mind of what is supposed to happen, and you just kind of count yourself out. And then I could understand how parents start counting their kids out, not because they don't love them and care about them, but because they don't want to set themselves up for failure, their kids up for failure.
right.
I think that's what's happening. And I
But
said
that
something like,
that failure is a personal failure. Like that's not they don't want to let themselves down, they don't want to let their kids down, but that's their own hang up. It's not the kids. Let the kids do what they want to do, be what they want to be, and you support them. So I think we get caught up in our role in the kids' lives as instead of supporting them. So
wow,
you know, it's really convoluted and complicated, but I think just having resources like me, like you, like this platform, I think is really important. So people can see that there's other options and you
right.
can be successful any way you choose. And, part of life is trying something and not succeeding and trying something else and succeeding. So I
That's true.
think we have to just be positive and keep pushing and pushing and inspiring each other.
That's true. You're right. I mean, I think my daughter said it to me recently that she saw something that said 23-year-olds are already considering themselves a failure because of social media. So I'm so happy I
Yep.
didn't grow up with social media, but I could definitely see that happening. But and they haven't even had a chance to really fail. But failure is a part of life because you grow from it,
Yes.
you learn from that, and that's why I like, and that's why we're doing this platform because I think it's important for people to not have put people on pedestals,
Right.
think that that's not attainable for me. That's just, oh, that's that lucky kid that got to do that,
Right.
got to do
Right.
this, and it takes some work and perseverance. But guess what? You're living and breathing every day anyway, so you might as well be aiming toward something in
Yep.
particular. So I'm
Shoot
glad
for
that
stars.
you're.
Yeah.
I didn't know that your story was not a direct, exact route. Like you didn't weren't like a ninth grader going, I'm going to medical school. So and
No,
that's
no, that
huge.
was medical school was like the backup.
Wow.
For me, I'm sure my mom
Right.
and dad had big plans, but it just so happens I was blessed to be born in that situation, right?
Yep.
Like, unfortunately, that doesn't happen to everybody where they have motivated parents. And my sister was the same story. She's a lawyer. She practices in North New Jersey.
Mhm.
But I don't think she knew what she wanted to do until college either. But she was she was pushed in the right, gently pushed in the right direction.
Yeah, my kids call me a professional blackmailer. I'm like, I don't know if I'm a blackmailer, but I'm like, you're gonna fill out this application.
Right. But that mindset is contagious, right? So me and my wife are doing the same thing with our kids, right? So
Mom
they
said if
don't
you
want to
don't
play
trust me,
piano today.
that's right.
You got to play piano. You don't want to go to this tutoring program. You got to do this. It's like you can't spend so
Consequence.
much time playing basketball. It's
Exactly.
we and they'll do that to their kids. So
So
exponentially it'll grow. We just got to get more parents on board.
yeah, I guess it's considered old school because my mom was the same way, and it was like you're gonna eat if you eat my food, you're gonna do what I say, and that's it. Like
Right.
no
Right.
discussion. And and I'm hoping that more parents will continue to do that and not. I'm my kids' friend to a certain extent, but when it comes to certain things, it's like this. There's no options. There's no talking
Right.
about it. This is what's gonna happen, and you'll get past it. They won't always like you, and that's okay. And they'll.
I hated volunteering. I used to take the bus on the weekends
I love
and
it.
refill cups of water for the old people. Like I hated it.
And look what
But
you're
my
doing
guess what? My
now.
kids are going to do the same thing.
It is. And that's the thing. You can't do parenting in isolation. You have to find a tribe, a support group of other folks that are in your kids in the same age group. And I'm really hoping through COVID that parents are going to be more engaged in their children's education because we've all been home. We got to see our
Right.
kids in the classroom for the first time ever, other than going in to do story time. So that's huge to be able to see that. We're probably going to start questioning what is being said in the classroom. Looking at things a little bit more different when we go
For
back.
better or for worse, though, I think.
I know.
My kids do a hybrid, so they go to school in the morning and then come home in the afternoon. And on the days where I've been with them, it's like I get a little frustrated, and learning is much different now than what it used to be. So I hope that parents will persevere and
Yep.
keep motivating their kids correctly, knowing the type of material that they're trying to learn. So
No, definitely. It definitely is a struggle. I am blessed that my kids are old enough to at least be on their own because
right.
it would have been a challenge. So, but listen, tell us a little bit before we go about I know you say you have a practice in TNEC. Can you just in case there are some parents listening, some parents looking for a doctor or whomever, can you
Yeah.
tell us where how they can reach you and where you are exactly?
Well, you can go to my website. It's ClintonColemanMD.com. So it's ClentonColemanMD.com. And then it has information about the practice, has all the social media stuff as well. You can actually go online and make an appointment there or find the information for the office. I'm located in Teaneck on Cedar Lane, 222 Cedar Lane. And we talked about mentorship. I've been involved in a group of medical professionals for a few years now. Um, we were a little quiet for a while, but now since COVID is starting to ramp up and the vaccine, so we've started, some community activities. We're having a panel discussion the end of the month about COVID and the vaccine, but we're also starting a mentorship program too. So a bunch of the local doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners are all going to be available for mentorship. So we'll have some kind of way that anybody who's interested in the field of medicine can go and match up with a medical professional that looks like them. So
Wow.
you can go sign up for our email list. It's mpn/nj.com,
Say it again. MPM.
mpn, so Mary, Pencil, Nancy,
Mhm.
slash NJ, New Jersey.com.
Okay. Awesome.
And
That's
that's the Medical Professional Network of New Jersey.com. So
oh wow, that's gonna be amazing. I already have kids in mind. That'll be great to be interested in signing up for that. And I also saw I haven't had a chance to listen to one fully yet because I'm so busy. You have a podcast.
like everybody else, yeah, we have a podcast. So it's that's called Recommended Daily Dose.
And what is the
Um,
podcast focused on?
so it's two normal doctors talking about healthcare stuff in a fun and educational way. So we're not trying to bore you with big words, or it's not like daytime TV where you listen to a doctor and you fall asleep. But it's like the real deal, Holyfield interpretation of medicine, and it's fun. We make fun of each other.
I love
That's Recommended Daily Dose, and the website for that is rxdailydose.com. We come out about once a week, and most of the stuff is about COVID now, but we interview people who have interesting stories, mostly related to the healthcare field. So we've talked to a lot of famous people. We've talked to some of the New York Giants. We talked to some of the TV personality physicians, some news media hosts. So we're
nice.
trying to get the message out on health. We're trying to educate people who actually want to be entertained at the same time. So that's that demographic between 20 and probably 50, right? Not the ones who sit and watch TV and listen to Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil, no offense. So it's a little different, but
I love
it's great. We have fun, and we hope people have fun listening.
oh wow, that's awesome. So is it a video or just listening, just audio?
It's both. So we started off on just audio. So it's actually on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. But we also have a YouTube page. So we record video, record ourselves, and we post that on YouTube as well. So no matter how you digest your content, you can find us. So YouTube, the website, even my own website has links for it. So I encourage everybody to subscribe. It's fun. You get some laugh and some education at the same time.
I love it. It looks like you're at, I did some podcasts too, and it looks like you're at Fellas. Is that at Fellas Place in Fort Lee?
We were, yeah, before
Okay.
COVID. Yeah.
Awesome.
So when we were
Awesome.
doing in-person interviews,
Nice.
um, yeah,
Nice.
One of One Production Studio in Fort Lee. Shout
Mhm.
out to them.
Yeah.
We were recording there. We had a few guests, and then COVID hit. So now we do remote, which I don't mind actually. I don't mind remote, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to get back in the studio.
No, I hear you. I hear you. That's good stuff. And thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the program that's happening on the 24th of February.
Yes.
And I know there's been a couple of other programs that you were participating in, and that's so important that we, just stay informed, stay involved, check on everybody you know, make sure they have information they need about COVID-19, staying safe, and also getting the vaccine, and just helping people make educated decisions. We understand that in our community, for many good reasons, there's a lot
Right.
of fear and concern and mistrust. And
Yep.
so we're grateful for you spending a whole lot of your time making sure that our folks are getting vaccinated, that they're getting registered. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, so I'm sure we'll have some phenomenal young people reaching out to you and reaching out to your program, your mentorship program. I think that'll be awesome. That is
I'm
so
looking forward to it. Yeah. So, and
yeah.
I also tell people like you can, like I said with the town hall meeting, you can find me on Google. You can go to my website. You can actually send me a message there, or you can call the office. And
Right.
medical information is free. I'd rather people get it from me than Dr. Google. So we're happy to help if you have any questions about the vaccine, about being a physician in general. I
Mhm.
think part of our role as healthcare providers is to be available to people who need it, whether they are patients or not. So
Right.
I'm available, and I hope people take advantage of that.
That's awesome. Now you service patients. Are you primary care physician
I
also?
am as well. Yes, yes.
And for what ages? Just so I know, because I also have two sons who I think are aging out of pediatricians.
Yeah, once they leave the pediatrician,
What
so I
age is
think
that? Your son?
safely 18 and
Okay,
over.
got
Yeah.
you. Okay,
Well,
okay,
you can see the pediatrician until you're 21.
okay, okay.
But most young adults don't want to be the oldest kid in the doctor's office.
Well, my boys
So,
are 19 and 21, so I think it's time. Even though they love Dr. Terry, I'm like, yeah, you still want to go there?
well, they can still maintain that relationship, but I think when there's adult things that need to be discussed, they probably want to talk to an adult
Right,
physician. But
right, right. Awesome,
yeah, 18 and older, um,
awesome.
we're happy to help. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Coleman. This is such a pleasure on so many different levels for me.
Well, likewise.
Thinking about Mama, and I know she harassed me to harass you. So, but thank you again for giving up your time and taking so much time out of your busy schedule just to educate our community and care so much, because that means a lot. It means a
And
lot.
thank you for what you do. I don't know how many people tell you thank you for what you do, but you do this out of the kindness of your heart, and your inspiration and drive and passion is palpable. So we thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend and
You
afternoon.
too.
Okay. Take
Thank
care.
you. Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.